What if eating less and exercising more is actually making your hormones and your health worse? I'm Natalie Tysdal. In today's episode, a hormone and metabolism expert reveals why most women trying to do everything right in midlife are stuck, exhausted, and even gaining weight. If you've tried every diet and you still don't feel like yourself, you're going to want to hear today's episode. Hey friends, Natalie here. I'm so glad you're tuning in today because this episode is one that so many of us can relate to, especially as we hit our 40s and beyond. We're talking about hormones, weight struggles, brain fog, and that frustrating feeling of just being off. My guest today is Ashley Fillmore. She's truly a breath of fresh air when it comes to navigating these tricky topics with honesty, empathy, and real proven solutions. Ashley and I dive into why so many women feel exhausted and defeated after trying every diet they know about and they see. They even are working out only to see little to no results once those hormones begin to shift. We're also going to talk about GLP-1 medications again, the real benefits of strength training, and the absolute non-negotiables when it comes to reclaiming your energy, your body, and your confidence. One of the biggest takeaways today, no two women are the same, and the old advice to eat less and exercise more just doesn't cut it during perimenopause and menopause. Ashley shares what she looks for first when working with her clients, the most common mistakes even health-conscious women are making, and why nutrition is the number one dial mover when it comes to real change. And before we dive in today to the conversation, I want to make sure that you know about a free resource that I've created that so many women have already found incredibly helpful. It's called the Gut Reset Plan. If you've been dealing with any bloating, fatigue, stubborn weight, brain fog, or just that sense that something isn't right, your gut health could be at the root of it. The Gut Reset Plan is a simple, science-backed guide that I put together after years of interviews with doctors and health experts. It walks you through the foods that support a healthy gut, what to avoid, and small, realistic changes that can make a big difference in how you feel physically and emotionally. This isn't about trendy diets or expensive supplements. It's really about understanding your body and giving it what it needs to thrive. You can download that plan for free at Natalie Tysdal, that's NATALIETYSDAL.com/gut reset. You can also click the link in today's show notes. All right, let's jump into the conversation today with Ashley Fillmore. Ashley, thank you for joining me on a topic that I think concerns a lot of women, and it can be very confusing for a lot of women.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much, Natalie, for having me on your show today. I'm very excited to have this conversation.
Well, this is something that you do day in and day out with the same people that listen, the same women who are listening to my podcast on a regular basis. And we're talking about hormones. I think they're confusing. I think women, when hormones start becoming a problem, they're already having a lot of the issues that we're going to go into today with weight, with brain fog, with all of these things. When do women typically first find you? What are those signs that lead them to you because they're having issues?
Such a great question. So oftentimes women come to me when they are exhausted, when they're sick and tired of trying other diets, one size fits all, cookie cutter programs that really lack customization and true individual attention. And so oftentimes when a woman comes into my world, she's really at the place in her life where she's tried all the other things. She's done all of the things. She's wasted money. She's wasted time. But unfortunately, she still doesn't feel good. And she really wants to regain her health, her energy, improve her body composition. And that's usually the point when they come to me, sometimes even in tears. I just can't do this anymore. I need a sustainable approach. I need someone that's going to guide me and truly offer me support versus a cookie cutter meal plan or generic advice for all women going through perimenopause when we know that that approach really isn't going to serve that woman that's struggling.
The age variation is great. Sometimes this is women in their early 40s. Sometimes it's these late 50s. What age group are you usually working with?
So generally I work with most women that I would say is 35 to 50 that's going through perimenopause or menopause. I will say though, there are some women in their late 30s that are in perimenopause, fully in perimenopause, and that would be more early onset perimenopause. I would say, though, the average age of a woman coming to me is going to be mostly in her 40s, with a few exceptions, again, of some of those women in their late 50s that's already going through these hormonal shifts and changes.
It's so interesting to me, and I think where a lot of women will relate to this is some women have no symptoms. I didn't for many, many years. Like I'm good. I'm not even in perimenopause. And then boom, like overnight, everything hits all at once. You feel terrible. And this is where I hear from most women. Like, I'm doing everything the same. I'm eating the same. I'm still exercising. And yet I am so tired all the time. So where do you start in working with women to help them? Is it their diet? Is there that much we can really do with our diets to help?
So with almost 20 years of experience working with women through this phase of life, and really realizing early in my career when I was in my 20s that the whole exercise more, eat less approach wasn't going to work. And there's so many things that go into why and how and if you lose weight. So many things. And your hormones have a huge play in this puzzle. And oftentimes as women, maybe we are doing what we used to do, working out and doing the same workouts that we used to do and lose weight or maintain our weight on. We're following the same dieting or nutrition principles that really served us, and we're not feeling the same way. And that shift is because our hormones have changed. And so suddenly things are really starting to shift hormonally and impacting our weight and how we feel. But to really address this, I learned that we have to look at it from a sustainable and holistic way. So one of the things I loved about working with my clients and patients in person is within a day, I would see 8 to 10 clients. And this was full time every single day, 5 days a week for many years until I started my own company. And the thing that I got to witness is that every woman that came through the door to work with me was different. Not just her lifestyle, but her hormones, the way she responded, the way when we did certain workouts, there would be a different result, an outcome for her. Nutrition protocols would respond differently. When we did some more advanced testing and things like that, we would see totally different results. And so very early in my career, I got to witness firsthand through just literally trial and error and working with clients that every single person needs a tailored approach. You can have two women that have blonde hair, 45 years old, the same height and same weight, and their bodies are going to respond totally different to the exact same nutrition and workout protocol. And so for me, this was a really eye-opening experience. And that's when I started to say, customization is key. We have to tailor everything to fit that individual client's body goals, the way their body is responding, which I like to refer to as biofeedback. And with my company, Metabolic Fix, that's exactly what we do, is we assess where you're starting through looking at full metabolic assessments. I actually do a complete metabolic evaluation on every client that comes in. We're looking at your food logs. We're asking so many questions to get to know you, what you eat, how you move, your stressors, how your cycles are flowing every month, if you are still having regular cycles, your health history. And from there, that's when we start to build workout protocols, nutrition protocols, lifestyle suggestions, but in very digestible, just broken down, digestible chunks. So you're not having so much coming at you. Because also in midlife, we have children we're raising, generally speaking. We are working. We're building our careers. Some of us are taking care of aging parents. We have households to manage. So there's so many other things on our plate. So even though we want to think about our health and fitness and our hormones all the time, we can't. And we're stretched then. And so I like to go into it with a big plan, but broken into little chunks and really focusing in on dial movers for each client. So I would say nutrition is going to be first. Nutrition is going to be the first thing that we're going to work on, because your nutrition is going to impact everything that you do.
More than everyone realizes.
Yes. And then workouts. And we do them simultaneously. It's not like we're saying we're only going to do nutrition for X amount of time and then add in workouts. Everything's tailored to meet you, but the first priority is your nutrition and really doubling down on that. That's where you're going to see the biggest bang for your buck.
I find a lot of women that you say all of this and it sounds like I can do all of this. And then they start and they're overwhelmed and they give up. It's like,
Exactly.
I can do this. I can eat these things. And then they're just starving and they just want that hamburger and French fries. And then they're tired. So they don't exercise and it all compounds. So I always like to say, and this is true of anything in life, that it doesn't just have to be your hormones. It's like start with just one thing, conquer it, do well, then move on to the next thing. Because when you're thinking about all the things, you get overwhelmed. But let's talk about nutrition. What are the biggest mistakes, the things that are impacting our hormones the most at this age that you find, and the quick fixes, if there are any quick fixes, some of the things that you just can do right now that would help?
So 2 of the biggest mistakes I see women making: one, chronically undereating and still really buying into less is better. Don't eat too much. Restrict to lose weight. But oftentimes the woman that's coming into my world, she is restricting, but she's not responding. She's gaining weight. She's not losing weight. And
your
it's
body's
very
holding on to everything for dear life. It's like, I'm going to hold on to that and not let you lose weight.
Exactly. And the second thing, and I've seen thousands of food logs to confirm this, is so many women think that they're eating healthy, but they're not. And there is so much misinformation out there about what's healthy, what you should and shouldn't be eating, that I think it's paralyzed most women, and they can't and don't know how to make proper nutrition or healthy nutrition choices that support their body. And the last thing I want to add to this is the dieting culture doesn't help. Crash diets are not designed to teach you how to eat for optimal hormone health and metabolic health. And your metabolism truly is the powerhouse behind how your body breaks down energy, and the calories you consume are going to also be influenced by metabolic health, but your hormones come into play. And so oftentimes I see a woman coming into my community that is, one, under eating, and she truly believes that she's eating healthy. But when I look at her food logs, or one of my assistant coaches do, what we see is that what she thought was healthy eating were actually a lot of foods that were contributing to her blood sugar dysfunction, contributing to her not being able to lose weight. So not only is she chronically under eating and her metabolism is adapted to that, she's also not eating the right foods and not eating foods that support longevity and health and hormones as we go through this next phase of life, where those things are more important. So those are the top 2 things that I see women making the mistakes on.
Give me a couple of examples of a woman who thinks she's being good. I'm doing the things that, and I want to address something you just said because it's so important to me, the misinformation. There is so much out there, Dr. Google, as people call it, that you can look up and you think you're following one thing, but if you're not getting the right information, which right now it's all over the place on social media and everywhere, you have to have good, sound, scientifically based information. But give us some examples of a woman who thinks she's eating well, she thinks she's doing all the right things and struggling. What would that food log look like?
Yeah, so I'm going to name a couple of foods that just come top of mind. I will say, even a health conscious woman starting her day off with a bowl of kashi cereal and blueberries. So I want to give some not so obvious things, because a lot of us know a donut isn't a great breakfast.
Right.
Maybe we don't fully understand the process that how it's being metabolized, but we know, hey, if you go to McDonald's for breakfast, it's probably not healthy. But there's a lot of women that think, hey, I'm having a high protein, as it says on the label, kashi cereal and some healthy blueberries for breakfast. And then maybe for lunch, it is a sub sandwich with some deli meat, with maybe even a whole grain bread. Because again, even a health conscious woman that has been dieting may know, hey, I shouldn't have the white bread. I'm going to go for the whole grain. And then dinner, maybe a combination of some type of pasta or some type of, I'm trying to think of some other things I see quite often. Or it's really not even necessarily something that I would consider super bad, but it would be maybe a salad from Chick-fil-A with added dried fruits and croutons, and then the high calorie dressing that isn't great either.
So you think you're making a good choice.
Exactly. So I'll use this one restaurant. And I hate to throw it under the bus, but it's not, I'm not saying it's not a good salad, but this was a great example. So one of my clients went to McAllister's, which is a sub sandwich shop. Like there's many of them around. You could probably go to any store. It's like where you can get subs and sandwiches and salads. So she was so proud of herself for ordering a salad. And the salad even had protein, but it had dried cranberries and it had pecans that had brown sugar on them. And it came with this raspberry vinaigrette dressing, which sounds pretty healthy, I think, too. And she also had some chicken on it. Immediately when I looked at it, I was like, oh, we need to look into this a little more. So I went to the website and I pulled up the salad. That one salad had 72 grams of carbs, all from processed sugar. So again, those are some not so obvious mistakes that women can make. And sometimes it can be something like having cereal or a granola bar or a keto product for breakfast or lunch. It could be a really low protein, high processed carbohydrate sandwich that you're consuming and you're not aware of it. It could be a salad that you're consuming thinking this is a great option for you, but when you look at the nutrition facts, it's a ton of sugar. And my client said to me, she said, if I would have known that, I would have rather had a burger and fries. If that would have been something I knew, if I was actually really trying to be healthy, but if she did that every day for lunch, think about the impact that could have on her health and body.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
those are some things. I see a lot of women turning to the low carb products, the keto based products as well, just because they feel like carbs are bad, or if it says keto, that means they're going to lose body fat. And the one thing I want to say is there's so much misinformation about a lot of these products. They're really just fancy terms and marketing boxes of food with pretty labels, processed, ultra processed foods that we're putting into our body. And that's having a huge metabolic, hormonal, and cellular effect on our body. Those types of things are really going to impact your hormones. That's why we do Nutrition School 101 with my clients. It is, I am going to teach you how you're supposed to eat for your body and empower you with knowledge so you can then make informed decisions about what you want to do. If you want to have that salad, have it, but go into it knowing this is a salad, yes, but I'm going to get, for example, 72 grams of carbs in this one salad. Do I want to still make this decision?
Yeah.
And eat this food?
Right. Or go into it with the knowledge of where the problem is on the salad and know how to order it.
Exactly.
I'm not going to have the
Remove
cranberries.
ingredients.
I'm not going to have, which cranberries aren't always bad, but they can be pretty sugary,
Right.
right? The pecans, the vinaigrette, like do your research, use Google to go in and find out before it. This is something I had to learn to do, that don't wait until you're there and you're standing in line or sitting there trying to figure out the menu. Log on early. Know when you're there, what you're going to order because you've done the research online. All menus are now online. Pretty much everywhere.
They are. And that's such a great tip. I tell my clients that as well. And you can always make modifications. You can always remove ingredients. I always add extra protein to salads. And oftentimes when I'm eating out, I'll ask a lot of questions to be informed. But we really do have to be careful what we're buying from the grocery stores. And we really do need to either educate ourselves. We could do it self-education, but I will say that's definitely the harder, way to approach this is when you're putting all the pressure on yourself as you're going through these changes and struggling with your health, plus life, to self-educate yourself on how you need to eat for your body. You can do it, but it is more difficult. And this is why I think it's so beneficial to have experts that truly know their stuff and are science-based, that can not only teach you the facts, but how to actually implement it for yourself.
Especially
That's
in
really
the beginning.
the hard part.
Having the knowledge down the road, we all need that. I mean, the knowledge, that's power, but it's so much all at once when you're trying to figure this out. And by the way, you're so tired because your hormones have changed and you have no energy. So we talked about the nutrition piece. Let's talk about the exercise piece. I like it that you start with nutrition because you've got to find some energy somewhere. So you do the metabolic panel so you can see where someone is. You start with nutrition. Then tell me the other areas you hit and other tips along the way.
So, the most important thing to me is understanding why an individual is suffering and struggling so much. I want to know everything that they're doing, from what they're eating, the types of workouts they're doing, how many days a week are they doing it, how many steps are they getting in. It is truly a very thorough evaluation. So, I assess that. And oftentimes, a lot of the women that come into my world fall in one, or there's two categories. They're doing nothing because they've tried everything and they're so exhausted and burnt
They give up.
out that they've given up, or they're doing everything. So they're doing HIIT classes, steady state cardio, Orange Theory multiple days a week, lifting weights on their own, running miles a day throughout the week, sometimes even working out multiple times in one day. And so it's like I have both extremes, nothing or too much. And so I like to look at where the client is. And a big part of designing workouts for our clients is determining what phase they're in. So as I mentioned early in my career, I learned that no two women were the same. And every one of us is starting at a different place in our journey, and we have different challenges that we're going to have to work around. Some being hormonal, some being metabolic, some being our lifestyle, our mindset, our dieting history. We all have so much, and it's not a bad thing. These are all the things that you want to address to become that better version of yourself. So what I will do is through our phase assessment, we determine where the client's starting. Either it's in the repair phase, the rebuild phase, or the results phase. And so if a client's coming into the repair phase, we're really going to be sensitive to cardio, to HIIT. We're going to strip away all of the unnecessary things. We're going to focus on building a foundation through strength training. We're going to focus on compound movements and teaching them how to work out correctly to support building muscle, because women at the age of 30 start to lose muscle mass, and it increases through perimenopause. And so we're going to do that. If they're in the rebuild phase, that means that they're eating plenty. They're not in a big deficit. We're not worried about metabolic adaptation from chronically dieting. They don't have any debilitating hormonal imbalances. So yeah, maybe they're 45 and technically in the perimenopause age range, but they're not showing any symptoms yet. So we're going to focus more on, okay, that base foundation is built. So you're not so much needing the repair phase. We need the rebuild phase. So we're going to still do strength training, but a little bit different, tailored more to that more intermediate client that is eating enough and supporting their body and supporting their hormones well. And so the workouts are going to be more geared to where the client's starting, but the foundation is strength training and walking for everyone. We do tweak things based off of the phase that they're starting in.
Yeah. And everyone is so different. That's the first thing you said when we started. I want your opinion on the popularity, and I agree with you that there are trends, but then there are scientifically based some things that we're finding are helping people jumpstart and are helping people with inflammation. That being, and I've done several episodes with doctors on the GLP-1s. And, are you finding some of your clients using this as kind of a kickstart for inflammation, even the microdosing of the tirzepatides and Ozempics and things like this?
Yeah. So about a year ago, I did start to see a surplus of individuals coming into my community that were using GLP-1. So actually I feel like I'm saying there's two categories for everything, but there were some women coming into my community that had used them, lost the weight. Maybe they weren't microdosing, now that I'm thinking of these individual clients.
That's new. That we're hearing more and more for
new.
inflammation and not just weight loss.
Right. And so the ones that were using it at higher doses for weight loss did lose a massive amount of weight, but they also lost a lot of muscle mass, and they essentially lost the weight because they lost their appetite. So they were eating very little, maybe one meal a day. So if you can imagine, when you're not giving your body the nutrients that it needs and the energy that it needs, it's going to start shutting down. And so, many of the women experienced dizziness and GI issues, and they really wanted to eat, but it would make them feel sick. And so they came to me saying, hey, I've lost the weight, but now I don't know what to do. Yeah. What do I do now? I need to build muscle mass. I need to build my calories back up. I'm only eating 500 calories a day. I feel weak.
Terrible.
Then I still have the issues that I used to have that initially contributed to me gaining the weight. So if that's stress eating or binge eating or the yo-yo dieting cycle or the negative self-talk or whatever it is for each of us that, maybe contributed to us turning to food at some point in our life. And so there's that category of women. Now, there's a newer category of women coming in. We do have several women in our community that are doing microdosing of GLP-1s to help reduce inflammation. And some of my clients that are coming back with a little bit higher A1Cs and fasting glucose, but mostly the higher A1Cs, not pre-diabetic necessarily, but they're in their late 30s and they're borderline pre-diabetic. Some of them are starting to microdose. Some of my clients with more inflammatory diseases, RA, different things like that, they're also doing microdoses. Now, interestingly, I'm not seeing a huge impact on their weight. And so I'm not seeing those individuals losing really any amount of significant weight, and they still have an appetite. And there is a lot of research out there that shows that it can help reduce inflammation. It can help turn around pre-diabetes if you're borderline, or help improve your A1C if you are a diabetic on medication and your body's not responding great. And so I think for each individual, in my professional opinion, you have to decide what's best for you. My job is to never make judgments. My job is to never say what's right or wrong for an individual client. My job is to meet them where they are. But there's a lot of research that talks a lot about microdosing GLP-1s. So if anyone listening in is wanting to know more and they're interested in potentially trying that, I always say, do your research. You yourself, if you're interested, look at some of the research.
Yeah. That knowledge is power. And the research, I mean, that's why I do what I do as a journalist, is it's so hard to get to the bottom of that information if you're not looking in the right places and you don't have the patience for the research. But there is a lot out there. And I do interview a lot of people on the GLP-1s and weight loss, and some great scientific information that it's helping people. The problem, as you mentioned, is it's not holistic. Like, that can't just be that. And many people prescribing it aren't doing everything else. It's just, here's the drug, go take it, see how you do. But losing muscle mass, not fixing the underlying problem. It can be one of the pieces of the pie that lend to your overall success. But I'm glad that you've looked into it and that you have people on both sides and you see the benefits in the microdosing, especially. That's what I'm most interested in right now. What other tips, as before we wrap up, do you find help women the most in just feeling better? Because that right now is the thing I hear from most women is I just wish I felt better, because that impacts our minds and our families and everything else.
Right. So when we look in the mirror and we don't feel good, there's a lot of things usually going on. It's generally not just the scale is up a little bit. I don't feel good. I don't recognize myself when I look in the mirror. I don't feel like I'm investing in myself, or my self-care is on the back burner, and my kids and my husband and my work and all the things are in front. And so when I hear a client say, I don't feel good, to me, that is a sign that we need to do a deeper dive on why they don't feel good. And more than just, well, the scale's up. Okay, why is the scale? Oh, well, I don't have time to make healthy choices for myself, and I'm eating on the run, or I'm working long nights, or I'm saying yes to everything and putting my workouts off and my nutrition off and my sleep off, and I'm staying up until midnight. So start with looking at your life and taking a hard look at really what is contributing to you not feeling good. Because maybe the scale is up, maybe your pants aren't fitting, and yes, that is the immediate thing that's irritating you and potentially making you in a bad mood, but why is it up? And not in a judgmental way, not in a way of, self-talk or negative self-talk, like, why is the scale up, or what have I done wrong? No, in a very compassionate way of, let's take a look at maybe even the last week or two. What have I been doing for myself? Then you'll start to see the cracks. You'll see that maybe you're not eating enough. And when you get home at the end of the day, you're starving. And so you just go for the pantry and you eat all the things.
Yeah.
Maybe you're stressed and you're having 1, 2, 3 glasses of wine or alcohol multiple times a week, and that's not helping you sleep well. And then you're not eating well because of that. Maybe your workouts aren't happening because you're staying up until midnight and you can't wake up in the morning because you're so tired. And so I always like to start there. So once we can identify those things, we can create a game plan to slowly and sustainably make changes in a way that feels really great for you so you can start to feel better. But on a base level, just so the listeners can have some things to walk away with, is when I have a client that wants to feel better, a couple of things that you can start doing immediately. And I know the listeners probably hear this often, but really take a hard look at your nutrition. And instead of trying to tackle everything, don't try to tackle the processed food, the alcohol, the protein, the carb amount, all of those things at one time. I would say start with one thing. And I will recommend starting with your protein intake. Focus in on eating enough protein at every single meal. Whole protein, so seafood, Greek yogurt, chicken, beef, lean pork, eggs, egg whites, protein powders.
It's
Those are some
fair.
examples.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's even confusion on what's a whole protein. Women come into my community thinking peanut butter and hummus are a complete protein, or oatmeal, or the kashi cereal. Those are not complete proteins. It's going to deplete your energy and negatively impact your hormones. So start with your protein. Protein is a very satiating macronutrient. So the more protein you eat, you're going to notice that you're fuller longer. Your blood sugar is going to be more stabilized. You're going to have less room for the processed foods. So shoot for 20 to 30 grams of protein when you're getting started. You can Google search how many ounces of protein do I need to consume to hit 20, 30 grams. Simple, type it in, it'll give you an answer if you can't work with an expert.
What would a
The next
daily
thing,
amount be? In 20, 30 for each meal, but what would your daily goal be for most women in protein?
yeah, so for most women, depending on their weight, I do try and get them close to 1 gram per pound of ideal weight. That's the target. But for some women, that's a long shot. If they're barely eating 50 grams of protein and suddenly they need to consume 130 grams. So I like to start a little bit smaller and say, could we get you to 20 grams per meal? Could you shoot for 100 grams of protein per meal? Think about adding in a little bit of extra Greek yogurt. Think about having cottage cheese. Think it doesn't have to all come from animal protein if you're not a big fan of animal protein. Be careful with other foods that claim to have protein in them that's not a complete protein, like hummus or peanut butter, things like that, that can be very confusing. So nutritionally, I'd say start with the protein. For your workouts, if you are struggling to lose weight and you're dieting, that is a huge red flag that what you're doing is not working. So I would take a look at what you're doing. And chances are you may be doing way too much cardio, way too much HIIT, still thinking I need to burn calories. A good sweat means I'm burning calories, and really focus on working with a professional, a certified trainer that can teach you and build programs for you that's really going to help you build muscle, sustain what you have as you go through your journey. That is going to empower you. The more muscle mass you have on your frame, the higher your metabolic rate. So that means you're going to burn more calories at rest, and your body's going to utilize the calories you're consuming efficiently. And you're going to see changes. You're going to start losing inches off your waist. You're going to start seeing the scale eventually change. Sometimes it's not as fast because muscle is dense and it is heavy. 5 pounds of muscle and 5 pounds of fat are not the same as far as what
Not
they
at all.
look like, but muscle's dense. And so I would say those two things. And last tip, if there's one other thing I can say with your lifestyle, take a hard look at your sleep. Sleep is one of the most
It's one for
important
me.
things.
I know for you,
Yes.
nutrition, but after years of not getting sleep, it's number one.
Yes, sleep is so important. And whatever you need to do to ensure that you're getting 7, 8 hours of sleep a night, take a look at your lifestyle, work really hard on restructuring it so you are getting to bed on time and truly getting a good night's rest. It's going to impact your hormones, your metabolism, your mental health, your energy. So those would be my beginning recommendations.
They're great. So important. And I'll add with sleep, not just in bed 7, 8 hours, but preparing for that. Your mind your eyes, looking at screens, all of that, you're going to get a better night's sleep when you've prepared for it. Ashley, so much information all in 33 minutes so far. Yeah. A lot to digest for people. I know it's a lot for people, but you got to start somewhere, right? And why not today? Start feeling better today. You'll notice a difference in your overall and how you give back to your community and your family when you start to feel better. Where can people find you and all of the goodness that you provide? I'll be sure and put links in.
Okay, thank you so much. So you can find me on Instagram. I'm always hanging out there. It's Ashley_Fillmore, Fillmore1. You can also find me on my podcast, Cheers to Your Success. I am releasing 1 to 2 episodes a week there, and my website, metabolicfix.com.
Ashley, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining the Natalie Tysdal podcast. You can follow along on Instagram and at natalietysdal.com. Subscribe to the show to catch every new episode and leave a review so I can continue to bring you fresh content. See you next week.